Last afternoon of our 2 days, which is not an easy afternoon. It will be hopefully very interesting, but please let's try not to lose our attention to the speakers. They deserve to get our full attention. And the way we do it now, we have 2 more project presentations, and then we go into our well-known roundtable. And then please stay, because the concluding session is not just something to conclude. There will be something happening there. Namely, we will summarize what we do, and this is collectively with you. So you will give your input on how we see what happened during these 2 days, so it may really be worth staying till the end. So with that, I give the word to Sylvie Perrin from Électricité de France. She will talk about, I think, an interesting, very interesting project, the Smart Electric Lyon project in a very nice area of France. Thank you. Sylvie.
Thank you for letting me having the opportunity to present you a Smart Electric Lyon demonstrator. And here we are going to talk about the customer engagement and not about technical part or anything, but really our customers. What do they want and what do they deserve? So I'm working at EDF Research and Development Direction. So what is the Smart Electric Lyon demonstrator? It's the biggest European demonstrator, which was run from 2012 to June 2017. It just ended a few months ago. And we had 21 partners in this consortium. We had 15 industrial stakeholders and 6 academic stakeholders. Among the 15 industrial stakeholders, you have main electrical equipment providers, you have telcos, you have also the French DSO Enedis who took part in this project. We had also a national support by the ADEME for this project. And the main goal of this project was to provide and to develop a solution to manage, to inform our customers about their energy consumption using the Linky meters. The Linky meters is a smart meter which is on deployment and rollout in France. We have rolled out about 5 million smart meters up to now. But in the region of Lyon, it was a pilot region, and 200,000 Linky meters were deployed in 2010. So that's why we had this demonstrator in Lyon. And we wanted to engage our customers to find a new solution, to work with us and develop solutions that could help them learn about their electricity consumption and change their behavior depending on the hour and the temperature outside and everything. So then we developed solutions, then we experimented them, and with our 6 academic stakeholders, we had some assessments, and now we are learning about what we have tested. And today I'm going to present you the main results of the demonstrator. I won't present all the results because we have a lot of them, but the main ones. And EDF was the coordinator of this project. The total cost of the project was about 45 million euros. So here are the main results of the project. So we have 3 main results on residential households. We have 1 set of results with tertiary buildings. And then we have technical results such as the local radio transmitter and the simulation tools which were developed during this project. So I'm going to go through all of these results. So one big main result was the customers engagement program, which we ran over 20,000 households. In fact, this program what we wanted to do is to give simple information to people and to see how they behave and if they changed or not their behavior depending on the results and the reports they had. In fact, we sent these people a report every 3 months with their consumption information and with a social comparison, same households in the same region, and to see what happened. I will go in more details on this experiment on my next slide, but still during the 3 years of this experiment, we gained 4 gigawatt. That's a lot, but small parts of everybody, it's a lot. Then we ran over we tried 18 different technical solutions to manage and inform our residential customer about their consumption in 150 households. So here, what we tested are the solutions provided by the 15 industrial stakeholders of the project. So each of them had different solutions to test, and we tried them with our customers. What we have learned is that before giving a technical solution, we have to learn what the customer wants to do with it. Because at the beginning of the project, we just try to have the good technical equipment in the house, and we gave the technical equipment to the customer. And sometimes it didn't work. So our social analysis told us that our clients had energy projects, and we had to take into account what they wanted to do. So at the end of the project, we worked with our clients in order to give them the solution that was answering their energy project. And each year we cut off about 100 hours in these houses with these solutions. So we sent text messages to these households the day before and telling them that the day after it will be a cold day. So then we automatically manage the client, and we cut off his heater, or we lowered it sometimes. But as you can see, 100 hours cut off every year is not that much. So we also tried tariffs in order to have more flexibility. So we tried 2 kinds of tariffs. One kind was based on penalties. So it means that the customer had a very high tariff during peak hours. So peak hours were always during winter time between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., for example. And so when it was penalties, he paid a lot more during these 2 hours, and he paid less during the rest of the time. And the other way was rewards. So there, the client kept the same tariff, but if he cut off his equipment, then he gained a reward. We paid him something. What we can see is that a lot of people, when we asked them, wanted to test the reward tariffs. But in fact, the one who worked better is the penalty tariffs. It's where we had less consumption. So for this part between the technical solutions and the tariffs, we also tried tariffs associated to management, to energy management. And there we had about 20% less consumption with the 2 of them. And only tariff, we had about 5% less consumption. So we see that when the customer is managed, we have a lot more effect on the consumption. Then we worked also on tertiary buildings. So we worked on middle tertiary buildings. It's about 2,500 square meters to 3,000 square meters. So we worked with cities, so public buildings such as schools, some hospitals even, or we worked also with buildings of offices. And what we can see in France, in fact, is that a lot of middle-sized tertiary buildings are not managed, or not very well managed, because management systems are very often costly. So what we developed in this experiment is what we call a low-cost management system for this kind of buildings. And we can see that the average of energy consumption we gained is about 30%, and it went up to 50% for a mall. And we saved 4 gigawatt hour in the 3 years we tested these solutions. We also worked on 2 public lighting zones, and there we had an 80% saving of consumption. So it's not only because of the management, it's because we changed of technology and we used LED lights. So there we gained so much using LEDs. So here are the 4 main results on experiments with tariffs and management solutions. But we also worked on technical aspects, and we developed what we call the local radio transmitter. In fact, the local radio transmitter is a small module radio that you place in your smart meter, and it sends you real-time data inside your house in order to give you the information or to manage equipment compatible with the technology of this radio transmitter. I will give more details about it on my next slides. And at last, we developed 5 tools. So it's the scientific stakeholders who developed these tools. At EDF, we developed a simulation tool based on human behavior. So depending on the human behavior, we have seen how much a house could consume, a house or an apartment, depending on which year it was built. And with incentives given inside the house, we have seen how the customer could behave. So it gives us some hints, but it's not real life. Then we developed with the CSTB 2 simulation tools in order to simulate households cuts off with and without tariff signals according to the price of electricity on spot markets. So we have seen there the impact of tariff signals on the consumption of households. Then another academic stakeholder, Armin, modelized 10,000 households and buildings of the district of Lyon. And we have the whole consumption of these houses in this district. So we can also see the impact of tariffs and management systems in this particular case. And at last, it's not yet completely finished. We modelize the diffusion of innovations, but it means for this precise example that we modelize how people change their heating solutions during the years according to the price of energy. So energy is gas, it's electricity, it's wood, it's oil, it's everything. So what has been done is we see how people change their heating solutions. So here, a focus on the customer's engagement program, so the experimentation over the 20,000 households. So what we can see is that we had 5 main periods during this experiment, which lasted from November 13 to March 16. We have the first phase, which was the appropriation phase for us as well as for the customers. And then we have 2 phases in summer where we can see that the consumption is lowered about 1% in the households. And in winter, we can see that for the first winter, we lowered the consumption about 2% and about 3% for the last winter. So one important thing to see is that the effect lasted in time and even is better during time. And we, in France, we have a lot of electric heaters, so that's why in winter we gained that much. And this experiment allowed EDF to develop a solution for our customers that we called Equilibre. It's a web app or a mobile app where our customers can see their consumption. And we give them also friendly gestures, and they can learn also the consumption of their appliances. We go to consumption by usage. Depending on which meter they have more or less information. In fact, if they have a Linky meter, they have a monthly report and information, and if they agree, they even can have daily information, if we can have the daily consumption. And this tool also can give information on the gas consumption of our customer, as EDF sells gas and electricity. So here is a successful story from the demonstrator. Here, this slide, I'm not going to go in details, but I wanted to show you this slide to show you that, in fact, the scientific analysis of all the experiments is very important, and that we had the luck to have 5 different scientists in this project. We had about 80 people, scientific people in the project. Ones were working on simulation tools, others on behavioral economy. So they wanted, for example, to know the customer's disposition to pay for services or not, what we could propose or not. We had also sociological analysis where we learned about the energetic project of the customer, and that's where we learned also that the customer had projects, and we had to propose something that was was good for his philosophy of life. We also had a lot of statistics to comfort what we were doing, to see if the technical solutions of the tariff were working or not, and if not, why. And 2 kinds of ergonomics analysis. One was ergonomics of clients. That means about 15 families have been followed during the 5 years of the project, and each year they had questions about how they used their equipment, what they thought about it, and if they wanted to keep it or not, why. And that's what you can see on the diagram, the green or the red, depending on how they used it. And the ergonomics of service is also a very important phase, because when the client said, yes, I want to be part of the experiment, then we propose a technical solution, then there is a technician who goes to the house, then installs the technical solution. And we learned that the role of this technical person is very important, because if this person doesn't know how to explain what is this technical solution, then it doesn't work. That's some of the examples of what we have learned, but there we have learned a lot of things, and each one of these scientific can give us some lightnings about each part of the experiments. Another part which is not part of experimentation is standardization. As an innovative project, we wanted to standardize what we have done. So we worked on use cases for residential and tertiary buildings. We also worked on functional architectures. So we began to work and describe use cases in the residential domain with the French government in a workshop called COSEI. And we produced a white paper, which is in English, and you can upload it. You can have it. And where we describe 8 residential use cases. And these use cases are now being standardized at the IEC body. And we will have finished by the end of the year the standardization of the residential use cases. And the same process is going on for the tertiary use cases. We have written them, and now they are at the IEC body, and they are being standardized. And what we also want to standardize is all the data models we have developed within this project for the exchange of information between the customer, the supplier, and the DSO. We also provide 2 white papers about the 2 French meters, the Linky meter, which is the smart meter for residential households, and the PME meter, which is the smart meter for tertiary buildings. We give information about the data which is inside the meter in order to open up as much as possible, and that industrial can propose solutions in order to manage and give information about electricity consumption. And at last, for the local radio transmitter, we standardized the data model of the Linky meter at the Zigbee Alliance and at the KNX Association in order to exchange information between the meter and appliances which would be inside the house. So what is the local radio transmitter? On the left hand, you have a picture of the Linky meter, and inside the Linky meter, you have a free place where you can put a radio transmitter, and so you have only one place. That's the important thing to think about. So if each supplier or industrial develop its own local radio transmitter, then we will lose interoperability because only one solution would work inside the house. So here what is important is that in this demonstrator, we worked with 12 industrials in order to develop one common solution, which is based on KNX and Zigbee radio protocols. That's the one we chose, and that's the one who works now. We have written the technical specification of this local radio transmitters. They are free and available for everyone who wants them. And we will continue working on this object after the project, because we think it's important to have one interoperable object. We know that some other providers will develop others, but at least if we are a lot around one solution, it's better. So the goal is to give in real time information inside the home. So it's in consumption information, it's consumption about which kind of tariff you are in, if it's high tariff, low tariff, and it can also manage an equipment which is compatible with the radio technology of the ERL, the local radio transmitter. So we can manage water heater or the heaters. For example, we are beginning to work on these issues. So the planning of the project, the submission of application was submitted in 2011, so it's a long time ago now, and it began in 2012 and ended in 2017 in June. So during these 5 years, a lot of things happened. In fact, energy transition, digital transition. So the project objective moved through the years, through the regulation that also moved. And so the first objectives of the project were to try to find a value of flexibility for households. And we have seen very early that we wouldn't find value because of the price of electricity maybe in France, which is not so high. So even when people made a lot of efforts, they gain only 10 euros for a year. That's not much. So we have to find other things to make them react and to engage them in energy transition. And that's what we have done during the years of the project. And we worked a lot with our customers to try to find what they wanted and propose them solutions. So why EDF was the coordinator for such a demonstrator and an active member of the demonstrator? EDF coordinated the whole demonstrator, but also coordinated the technical part and helped the coordination of the scientific part, because EDF is involved in more than 20 demonstrators for the past 5 years, so we learn a lot about our demonstrator. This one is focused on the customer's engagement, but we also run and participate in a demonstrator about the networks and everything. And we also work about energy transition and digital transition. So we have a lot of experience in demonstrator, and we have also a lot of feedback now on these experiments. So if you want to learn more about EDI Ferengi or Smart Electricity project, there are some kind of answers. You can upload what we can do at EDI Ferengi. You can scan the QR code which is on the slide, and you will be able to see what we can do. And for those of you who can read some French, we have the Smart Electricity report, and it's available. If you want it, you can ask me, and I will be pleased to send it to you. Thank you very much for your attention, and please.
Yes, again, a very impressive project, I think. Do you have immediate questions to Sylvie about this project? Nobody? Eric? Yes.
Eric Perrano, Technofi. I have a question about the personalized help you said for the households when technical device was installed. So can you give us more information?
Yes. So in fact, what we did at the beginning of the project, it's just that we wanted to be sure that the technical installation inside the house was compatible with the technical solution. But at the middle of the project, we first went and meet the clients to ask them what was their project, if they wanted to, for example, have real-time information, if they wanted to have their equipment managed or not, if they wanted just to see their consumption 2 or 3 days after. And when we had the answers, then we gave them the good technical solution. Because we have all of that is available, so we have to choose the right one for the right customer.
Interesting. Just one last one. It costed 45 million. Huh? That's what you said initially. Can you just give us an idea where did this money go? To manpower or to technology, or is it known which part was the most expensive one?
The most expensive one was all the scientific analysis, because there were more than 80 persons who worked on the scientific analysis. And in fact, the industrial partners developed their solution with their own money. So the project paid for the scientific analysis. We wanted to have a very large scientific analysis. I think it's the largest one.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Sylvie. Let's come back in the roundtable discussion. I think an applause again for Sylvie. Thank you. And we are coming to the last project presentation of today. This is done by Pedro Gerinha Rocha. I hope I spelled the name right. Yes. He's talking about a Portuguese project. He's from EDP. Talks about the DY project. And we are looking forward to your presentation, Pedro. It's okay. Good cam. Yeah.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation to be present here. It's a great pleasure to present this project, EDP Smart Home. I work for EDP Comercial. EDP Comercial is the retailer company of EDP Group, and our work here is to build a new set of services that we can use to establish a different connection with our customers. We think that there are a lot of forces that converge to change the paradigm of electrical in industry, and we have a new downstream and clients empowerment. We are thinking that Internet of Things will be something for the people like smartphones are for us now. We think that the Internet of Things will change the smart home, and the smart home will be something that the people will work or will deal every day in every moment, like we do now with smartphones. We believe that that these new facts will change the paradigm, and we, based on that, we create a new concept. We call this concept the EDP Smart Home. What is EDP Smart Home is a set of new services. For now, EDP Smart Home are basically 4 different services. Solar energy based on photovoltaic, of course. In Portugal, we have a legislation where any person could put in the roof solar panels for self-consumption, and this changed the market significantly. We have, in this concept, the smart home concept, we have a vision for batteries at home. We think that the electrical mobility will change the relationship that the people have with its utility. And of course, we need to manage this new complexity. We need a different tool that allow the customer to manage in a different way these different requests for these products. Our vision is that EDP could be the entity that the customer trusts to control the energy at home. And to do that or to make this possible, we developed a new product we call EDP Ready, and I start to present a little bit how Ready works. Okay, this is my car, my electric car, of course, an electric car. I'm going home. There are no noise in the car. It's electric, of course. This car is no level. I don't believe that you can see what kind of car it is. Now I'm approaching my home, and geofencing say, okay, I'm approaching at home. I will turn on the air conditioning. Okay, I arrive at home, and what we do when we arrive at home with electrical car, of course, we charge the car. Okay, this is what I am prepared to do, but of course, it's very important that I can charge the car only if I have a favorable tariff, typically during the night, where we can have lower tariffs than during the day. And of course, I will start this charging, in that case, starting at midnight. Okay, this, sorry. It's important to say also that when I charge a car, I have a relevant increase of demand inside the house. In a lot of houses, this increase of demand is not available. And that means that I must have a smart charging. That means the demand by the car must be adapted to demand that supported by the wires, by the fuses that I have at the place. This is important because we consider that if a person that buys an electrical car needs to replace a lot of car in their home, they need to replace fuses and cables and so on, this is a big obstacle to have an electrical car. We think that smart charging is something very important in this function. But we'll continue to start, okay? The car is ready to charge. I leave the car. And now I'm going to put the charging in the car, and I start at midnight like we program in the app. I have a modern home, and look, I'm looking now, I have solar, okay? And solar is in that house, I have solar and batteries. And it's important to understand quite well what happened with batteries and with solar. Of course, I look for my app, and I look for the behavior of the system, how much load I have, how much autonomy I have in the battery, what is the load of the home, and so on. It's important to say that these features are available today for our customers. We now have more or less 10,000 customers using this kind of features. We are, of course, we are looking what happened with solar, and now we are going home. This is not exactly my home. It's a little bigger than my home, but it's a home that everybody could desire, of course. And of course, you remember that when I come to home, the geofencing, turn on the air conditioning, but is not, okay, is connected, but the temperature is not like I want, is hot day, I want to have a little bit cold, and I adjust the solar. Sorry, I adjust the air conditioning. Okay, okay. Now I'm looking for the system. I automatically turn on the standby for my media center. Now I disconnect the standby function and I connect the equipment, and I start to turn on my coffee machine because I want a coffee, and I receive automatically. Okay, I turn and I receive a message telling me that I don't have power available to all these loads, and automatically the washing machine will be turned off by 5 minutes. And this means that I don't have to increase my demand power. It's important, I don't know if you know, in Portugal, in our tariff, we have two main, we pay energy, of course, kilowatt hour, and we pay kilowatt. We pay the power demand. And this is why this function is so important, because with that function, the people don't need to increase the power demand, and the system adjusts automatically for the functionality, the power that the people really need. Okay, I will continue to work. I receive an alarm. I have a pool. Pool is a very important issue in Portugal in nowadays. And but if you have a pool, there is a story in Portugal that the best pool is the pool from our friend, because every person that installs a swimming pool quickly learns that the pool is the most expensive thing at home. And why? Because you need always to run a pump that typically work 8 hours, 10 hours, and so on. And in that case, especially in this pump, there is a problem in the relay that controls this pump, and the pump is always on, okay? And with REDI, we detected that we have a problem there, and we have an increase in consumption. Of course, we can ask to the REDI if the schedule the pump in an efficient way. I don't know if you know that the time of running the pool pump must be linked to the temperature of the water, and of course the temperature of the water with the environment temperature. That means that we have the possibility to adjust automatically the time that the pool runs, dependent of the temperature. And this is a very interesting feature for some customers. This is a general presentation of REDI. Of course, we have all the functions that normally we have in this kind of applications. You can find the consumption per day, per hour, per week, per month. You can have forecast for the invoice in the end of the month. You can receive an alarm if your the forecast of the invoice is bigger than 100 euros, for instance. Or you can receive messages about what could be the best tariff compared with all the tariffs that we have available in our range of tariffs. We received tips and some special advices concerning the use of electricity. Okay. Okay. This is a brief demonstration of what we are doing with REDI. It's important to understand that REDI is an ecosystem that is built with an app, with a box that we put it in customers' home, typically near the router. And we developed a set of devices that could be used to control different devices at home. And of course, this is supported by an app and a platform that runs in our servers and control all these functions. Okay. Podem pôr o último slide, por favor. Podem mudar. In this presentation, this is a brief presentation of what REDI is doing nowadays in our customers now. This is a complementary presentation to understand quite well how REDI could work, and this represents the REDI architecture. Okay, we have our box, and one of the differentiation issues that we have compared with a lot of smart home systems that we have in the market is we have today a real-time connection to the smart meter. And this is so important for us. And you remember that we show you different functions, for instance, about demand control. We get this information from the smart meter. For solar customers, it's important that we could have the information about consumption, but also about injection in the grid. And we are measuring this with the smart meter. And we are using the smart meter to collect all this information. In Portugal, it's not easy to connect to the smart meter. And why? Because the smart meter is far from the house. Typically, in isolated houses with a garden and so on, the smart meter is always placed in the outside walls. That means that it's very frequent that we have 20, 30, 40 meters and a lot of walls between the house and between the smart meter and the place where we have the box. That means that the wireless protocols doesn't work here. And because of that, we developed a new kind of PLC. It's not the distributor PLC or the PLC that normally distributors are using. We are using a different PLC in a different range of frequency. Typically works well until 150 meters. And we are using the PLC to get data from the smart meter. Based on that, we developed also another device, is REDI meter. And REDI meter is a very important device for us because with that we can control devices outside perimeter's house. That means that if you want to control a device in the basement or a pump of the swimming pool in the garden or an irrigation pump that is far from the house, we need a way to control. And the PLC system that we are using responds very well to this challenge. Of course, we are using also standard protocols. We are using ZigBee protocol also to communicate with devices inside the house, inside this environment. And of course, we developed some devices that allow some control. For instance, we develop internally the air conditioning controls, because we don't find in the market a device that fulfill all requirements. But of course, we are using a set of devices from different vendors that are using ZigBee protocols, thermostats, for instance, IKEA lamps. There are a lot of devices that we can use in our system, and we are integrating in REDI, and we believe that is a way that we are preparing a product that effectively gives to the people the power to manage the energy. Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Again, another very impressive project. Questions from the audience? On Pedro. There is no question here. Of course, I have one.
There are questions.
Okay. Can I buy that system actually? When I'm going back to Switzerland, is
Yes,
it
of
possible?
course. Yes.
Where do I go? Who
Outside.
sells it?
I accept your order. No.
Who is the owner?
The owner is EDP.
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 Everything software.
I can accept
source
your
code?
order, okay.
Okay.
It's interesting because in Switzerland, in fact, we have 3 or 4 systems working already. Because we have some pilots outside. In fact, we have 7 or 8 countries where we have pilots, because we are trying to find companies that could help us to develop this product, okay? This product was developed in EDP, it's an EDP project, and, but of course our market is not a big market, and we are trying to find partners that could help us to develop this product to new functions, new ways of thinking, and so on. Okay. And of course, I'm glad that you can buy the product and put this product in Switzerland, and I'm sure that will work properly there.
Thank you. Very interesting. So, so you're becoming a system vendor in a certain sense, huh? Or
Sorry?
You're becoming a system vendor, EDP.
Of course. Of course.
Europe-wide, yeah? Okay,
of course.
There's another question here.
Yes, Daniel from Technofi. What's the average price of this, for example, for the client?
This is depends of the product that we are selling, okay? For instance, this product, we sell solar, okay? Mm-hmm. And this product is bundled with solar, okay? That means that the customer that buys solar,
by default, they have this.
They have this product. After 2 years, the customer will pay 3.9 euros, okay, per month. Okay, this is the price, the device. If you want to buy the device, the product without be bundled with nothing, you can buy, of course. To give you an idea, you must pay 99 euros to install the device, and this comes with 2 plugs. If you buy a plug, if you want to buy a plug, extra plug, you buy 35 euros, or the air conditioning plug, it costs 41, I think, okay?
Okay, thank you. And another point, for instance, in case of need, for example, peak demands, or in case of the system will need to shift loads, could EDP take the total control of the house, I mean, to solve these kind of issues? As, for example, if you have many houses using this kind of services?
This is not this project. This is not a prototype. This is a commercial product in the market, okay? And the functions that we developed are functions for the market that we have today. We don't have the DSM market working, okay? That means that we don't have developed the functionalities for the market that allow this kind of control. We have some tests doing, but this is not a commercial product that you put in the field. Yes, we can do it without any kind of, we have some tests where we can present a demo with that function, but it's not in the market because we don't have business case for that.
But have you foreseen this? Right?
Yes. Question there?
There is another question, 3 rows behind you. Oh, work microphone.
Good evening. I'd like to know how many clients use Ready, and if you have any idea of the bill reduction in terms of percentage or efficiency increasing in the consumption of the house.
Customers, 10,000, okay? 10,000. To give you an idea, we are sending automatic reports to the customers. To a customer to receive a report, he must have a certain time with information. That means that we are 10,000 customers and we every month send more or less 8,000 reports, to give you an idea, okay? The percentage of the reduction, this is a tricky question because this is an electrical device. The electrical device don't save energy, consume energy. That means that the first answer to your tricky question, this doesn't save nothing. This consumes some energy, a small quantity of energy, but this consumes energy. That means that the savings are not from the devices, but from the behaviors. And this is something that we learned in this point. Look, when we are using this with solar, of course, the customers save a lot of money in the bill because they are putting solar there and the savings comes from the solar. Of course, with Ready, the customers know quite well the savings, knows the savings. And, for instance, could program your machines to run during sun hours. For instance, if you need to run a washing dish machine, okay, you can program your machine not to start at 8 in the morning, but to start at 11, where you have a lot of sun. You can, for instance, adjust automatically the pump working hours to the sun hours that we have. That means this is the most important features that Ready could give to the customer. The most important, or the most relevant answer that can I give you, this gives to the customer the empowerment to control the energy in a different way. And this is more or less what we should, we think that is really important.
Thank you very much. I think, oh no, there's another question here. Very good, thank you.
Hello, Rui Alves, Sharon Dinester. Thank you for your presentation, it was very nice. My question is a little bit connected with the demand side management question. So as you have these systems on more customers and you start to have customers with large capacity on an aggregated manner, do you see EDP Commercial acting as an aggregator in the future?
Of course. Of course. There are no possible, of course. Of course. We think that this will be a very relevant business in the future. In nowadays, for instance, all the retailers that are acting in the market pay a lot of money for deviations, okay? Nowadays, that means we have a big potential here to minimize these values. There are a lot of business that could come from this side, and of course, we are in a room where everybody works or understands the electricity market. Of course, this will allow us to look for a different way to look for this business. Perhaps in the future don't make sense to sell this product. Perhaps could make sense to put in all the customers, to control some loads automatically that the customers allow, and this change our business model. Yes, we are looking for that.
And if the unbundling becomes more and more stringent, is that a challenge or not?
Of course. I think that everybody agrees that we have a lot of challenge in this sector, okay? There is a study in EDP that more or less say that if a customer put 3 kilowatts of panels in the roof and put a battery, more or less 5 kilowatt hour at home, the consumption from the grid will reduce 80%, not 18, 80%, okay? I think that this is the new world that we are preparing. This is something quite different than what we have today. And this is perhaps the main reason why we are doing this kind of thing.
Thank you. An applause again to Pedro. So this was the last project presentation of the day. Now I please ask all the authors and Workgroup 4 representative to come in front. Let's have a good final discussion and wrap this up. Please. Oh, and take the microphone, yes. Yeah, Bruno, you are here, yes. Okay, very good. Yeah, here you are. Okay, very good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I just want to ask, do you have this this slide set ready for this is a slide set which I can just do, not a lot actually. Can you just show what the next slide is here, the first one? Slide here. Okay. He doesn't have the slide set.
Of course.
Anyway, so let's start a few discussion points here. Workgroup 4, we heard it initially, intends to do a lot. Huh? We heard that, I just mentioned a few words, I just, without being order, they talk about the blockchain here, they talk about plug and play. I just mentioned keywords which we may not have heard today, just to provoke a little bit. Huh? Not that I say you're missing things, don't worry. Open markets, confidentiality is an issue, which we want to look at, cybersecurity, privacy, these things. We need smart management strategies, what you say as a principle of Workgroup 4. We need standards. I think we heard about that. Data mining is mentioned on one of your slides. I think we heard about that today. Did we hear about business opportunities today? Yes, I think we heard about business opportunities. When we look at the customer or consumer, we got examples that actually what we tried worked. Can those who made experiments also say of critical experiences where you say, oh, this shouldn't be done like that? So where did consumers actually cancel one of these 10? How many of these 10,000? You don't need to say a number here, but actually canceled the contract to say, well, that's nothing for me. Or what did you do wrong? Can you maybe, with your experiences, give a few hints to the audience what one should not do in these very sensitive customer relationships? Can I maybe start to the left if you have some experience in that? Yeah.
Where the customer, can you repeat the question again? Where the customer declined an offer or something like that?
Well, in general, you know, I mean, customers are critical persons. Yeah. They don't like certain things, and maybe it's just a simple approach how to approach them, you know. Maybe there is something to be done wrong. Maybe you have some experiences to share with the audience about what did not work, you know. What should be done better? Yeah.
For example, you know, you saw that slide with the customer recruitment. We had a lot of emails that went out. The customers filled out surveys. They filled out, you know, we had a plumber go into the home, look at the hot press. Then a customer would fill out would look at the terms and conditions, but then did not want someone to come into their house and install a hot water heater. And it was, you know, they did not want to take time off work either to facilitate or simple things like that. But that's just the first example that comes to mind. I'm sure there'll be a few more that'll come.
Yeah, but that's fine. Yeah. Well, I mean, you talked about a lot of positive experiences. I'm sure certain things didn't exactly work as you expected.
Yes, we also had problems during the recruitment phases because people agreed to the experiment, and when they read the contract part, they said no. And as I said, we developed the solutions also during the project, but at the beginning, all of them didn't work perfectly well. So we had some adjustments, and some people didn't want to wait. It didn't work, so they stopped and they quit the experiments. Or we didn't give enough information also, but we recruited, we have the 20,000 people for the engagement program, that's a thing, but the 500 houses that were in experiment, only 5 or 6 quit the experimentation during the 5 years of the project. But we needed a lot of time to recruit people. In fact, it was very long because we recruit only about 3 or 4% when we call people, and at the end we have only 3 or 4% of people who sign the convention.
Yeah, very interesting.
I could spend all the afternoon talking about this.
Okay, learning experience.
Yes. One of the most important, when we discuss these kind of things, we think all kinds of relationships the customers have with these utilities. And in fact, the answer to this point is not a nice answer, because we are not sexy companies, okay? We are companies that the customers typically, there is an international figure, I don't know the origin, but normally the people say that the customer spends 7 minutes per year in the relation with these utilities. And normally, the invoice, too expensive, okay? This is the normal behavior of the customer. With products like Ready, we want to change these kind of things, and we want that the people could interact daily in an interesting way with EDP. And of course, when you put a solar there, it's interesting because in our statistics of you using, we find that the people, in fact, typically our customers are consulting twice a week the statistic about consumption and so on. But there is some critical points in the process. One of the critical points that we find that within an installation process, okay? The installation process is critical. A telecommunication company starts 10 years to learn how to put a box inside the house of the customer to do the connection with fiber and so on. And for utilities, this is something new because we typically install the meter outside the house of the customer and don't do nothing inside. And to do things inside the customer house, this is a new experience. We need different type of people to doing that. We need different type of training. We need a different mindset to the people that install and to the customer. And we must build these kind of things. And this perhaps the most important lesson. We must make easy this kind of services. It's not only to have beautiful technologies and everything works properly and so on. We must do the things quite simple for installers and for customers. And of course, we are not completely in that stage, and of course we have some complaints of that. Is perhaps the most important lesson.
The gap between complexity of research, you know, and the easiness at the customer side is a huge thing, you know.
Yes.
What do you have to say to this? Yeah, if you have, yeah.
I don't have many experience relating with the customer, but I think with what Pedro mentioned is true. Everyone, I think all the people that I know that don't work in EDP tend to consider EDP as something that is onus to them. So it is really difficult to change the mindset of the people so that they can engage with the brand on a different way than the invoice.
You know, if I would be a small operator or utility, I would be worried now a little bit, you know. I mean, look how big EDF is, 90 people on such a project, so much money, you need sociologists, you need economy, well, they have economists, I guess, you know, so.
It's not only EDF.
Well, they are not, you're right, yeah, but you need to support the internal knowledge and so on, you know. So are we going into a world where small utilities are lost, actually? You know, is this new customer relationship, you know, is this something which actually is the end of smaller utilities? You know, maybe here in the Western region we have bigger ones, but if you go to the Central Europe, many small ones. If you look at my country, you know, this is the world record, 600 on 6 million inhabitants. In Germany, 800 utilities. What is ongoing here, you know? Will there be a difference between a few small electric utilities handle that, a few big ones versus many small ones? Does somebody have an opinion on the evolution?
Who is the utility of the future?
Yeah.
Is the company that is selling energy? Perhaps Google could do it. This is not a small company, I'm sure. This is, but always the company that are installing solar panels. Perhaps the shop in the corner that sells some solar panels are our competitors in the future. That means that our competition is quite different in the future. We believe that different kind or different type of companies will act putting competitive pressure in our business, and we must prepare for that, of course.
Mm-hmm. And I think that those companies may be companies that are very well used to deal with the customers.
Exactly.
And even Google, in spite of being a big company, it can, if it wants, it can do. And another important aspect, I think, is that this type of companies have a much different dynamics than the utilities have. And they can very easily assemble something, reach people, and start to sell some products. And
they have a lot of resources to develop this kind of thing.
But also even startups, on this type of things, demand-side management, they start, and in 1 to 2 years they have a huge impact. And I think that's the main challenge, is how a utility that has a typically not a good image, and can engage people and also be fast enough to compete with this type of companies.
I think on that point, and just to challenge that a small bit, like we are the largest utility in Ireland, but we're very aware that the smaller utilities can maybe implement change a lot quicker. And the best analogy for a big utility that I can give is like a big ship. You can see it moving, but it's slow to turn, and a lot going on inside. And it takes a lot of communication and engagement with a lot of stakeholders when you're in a big utility. But from a small utility, you don't have that challenge as big, and you can implement certain processes a lot quicker and get up off the ground. Especially when digitalization is changing so quick, you need to be on top of that as well.
And what I wanted to add is also that as a big utility, we have also partnerships with startups, with laboratories or things like that. So we work with them, and we fund also them so they can work on the solutions. For example, for energy transition, we worked with more than 100 startups. So.
Very good. So, please, I give the word. You are part of the round table, so there are two who want to say something here. Say or ask or make a remark, please.
Hi, Daniel from Technophy. Actually, something that really caught my attention from Sylvie's presentation is that, well, it's an open question to the table, no? But would you consider that penalties are really the better way to influence like people behavior? It's something that I have already heard a couple of times. So it's really like this. I mean, it's not a better way to educate people or strategies or campaigns. It's really the penalties which are the key driver at the end for the success of this kind of projects.
Yeah. So the penalty as a good thing, you know.
So.
Please, yes. Mm-hmm.
So what we have seen, this is a project with people who signed to be engaged in the project, so it's not all the customers, of course, but the people we worked with were engaged with energy transition, energy management, and they wanted to know more about energy, and they were ready to change their behavior, and in order to consume less or to change their habits. For example, when there were peak hours, they consume as much as usual, but they consume at other hours of the day. But these people were agreed to do that. It's not the majority of people, I think, in France, because some people, about 75% of people in France don't even open their bill. So here it's an example, and it worked like that. So now we have to have a relationship with our customers in order to engage them and so that they change their behavior. And what I said is that EDF worked on our platform called Equilibre, where we give information to our customers. And now we have 2.5 million customers who are on this platform. So we see that the change is beginning. It's going slowly for the moment, but it begins.
Thank you. I'm sure everybody has an opinion here, but let's go for collecting another question, please. Yes.
Okay, I would like to ask about demand response developments. If we want to go to a real in-depth demand response, of course, we would start with equipments that are common to a lot of clients. And these are the examples that we have seen through most of the presentations or all the presentations here. However, some papers present research in the direction that real demand response will require researching each installation, each end user installation with an in-depth that on one hand should preserve the customer's comfort and suit his needs, his real needs. And on the other side, it should be able to capture all the possibilities that his home, his small business has to respond to the required flexibility from the demand side. So if you need to do this, do you think that a big utility can spend resources to go to each place, or is it more appropriate for neighborhood scale or small community scale aggregators to try to resource these and aggregate them?
Yeah, thank you. Who wants to speculate on answers on that?
I can give you an information. Okay, my opinion is demand response is a great idea, but because it's not easy to do demand response, you must find loads in the customer that could be shipped. And in customers' environment, in B2C customers, this is not an easy thing. Of course, if you have air conditioning, in our system, you find air conditioning. Why you have that? Because the air conditioning is one of the most important loads in Portugal. That is hot weather, even a lot of houses have air conditioning. And air conditioning is an important load that you can access some control. Of course, to have access to that, you must have also understand what customers think about comfort and so on. But to have a demand response process for B2C market is not an easy thing, because you need a system, you need a technology to put in customers' house, you need someone to look for the system and prepare. And you need another very important and expensive thing, is to get the customer. Sometimes to get the customer is more expensive from all these steps. And this is very important issue when you are thinking in business case about demand response. Of course, if you are looking for demand response in B2B market, of course, things are completely different, because you are managing loads of 1 megawatt or 500 kilowatts, and this is completely different. I think that for all these reasons, the real demand response in B2C market is far from now. I think that demand response in B2B market is more easy to build in a profitable way.
For both parts, right?
For both parts.
If I may add, just the thing is, Pedro mentioned that we have a huge expense to reaching the customer. And once again, I think we may have a challenge of companies to whom the customer, that are reached by the customer. There are some companies that don't need to do this effort to reach the software companies. And perhaps if one of those companies that have products that are present in our daily life, they can reach us in a much easier way and less expensive than the tools that we are used to use to reach the customer. So that may be a challenge in the future, to try to decrease this.
This is some interesting point.
We'll talk afterwards.
That is not the right place.
Okay, sorry.
I might just add to that a small bit, and just to echo those remarks. It is not easy, but there's ways to make it easy. And if you facilitate the customer with a piece of technology that they like, that they get a lot more control and monitoring than they've ever got before, then that makes it a bit easier. And then in terms of having demand response events, for us is making sure that the customer, their comfort is not put out. So we always give the customer the ultimate control then. So then if we have an event, the customer can opt out, and they see the text message or they see the the push notification through the app. And they always have that control. So that makes it a bit easier. But the best way to scale up is not through email or anything like that, but I think is nearly word of mouth through friends and neighbours. And when they see when your friend or neighbour is getting a lot more control over a piece of technology, it scales up big then.
Very good, thank you. Before finishing that session, I just want to ask, this is the workgroup 4 session. This was the workgroup 4 session. And you started with your initial presentation. What do you think of this? Do they do the research projects in areas which you proposed, or is something missing here fundamentally? What was your in very brief sentence? What do you think about it?
In the brief sentence, I would say they are in sync with what we think in what is the roadmap, mainly for the task force 1 and 2. So basically for the enablers and so the task force related with infrastructure, with the standardization and so on, and also the task force related with the use cases, because we have seen many use cases centralized on the customer, as I mentioned in my presentation. What is somehow missing, I felt a little bit about that, is missing some kind of cybersecurity concerns here, because the customers may want to not to have their data available for the world, and they may get hacked in their houses. Something can go wrong, and I think that more projects in these projects we should also address cybersecurity concerns very well, because I think in the future, with so much digitalization, I think it's very important also to address these kind of questions.
Very interesting. Well, let's leave it like that. Thank you very much for your presentations and the discussions, and to you for the questions. Thank you. So, with that, I give to whom the word? Okay, so I give now the word to the CEO of EDP. If you could please come forward. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks. Super, yeah. Just start talking. I think it should work. They'll switch on. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, good afternoon, everyone. A little small change in the program, but I promise that it will be very fast, because I know that everyone wants to see the city with a nice weather. I just confirm that. But I want to address you a few words. The first one, thank you to be here, to be part of this workshop, and I can say that EDP is very happy to be the host of this event. We are really engaged on this energy transition that you spent those 2 days. I get information there are almost 200 participants. It's a huge number that can show the interest of the challenge we have on this industry, and in a way to achieve all of those that are interested in these projects and what we are doing. It was our first live streaming experience, and I hope it, until now it works very well, so I hope that it can be useful, and I send a special salute to those that are engaged with us through internet. I think everyone knows that EDP Distribuição is engaged on smart grids. We have an umbrella project called InnovGrid for almost 10 years, step by step. And meanwhile, we are involved in a few projects, especially on Europe, with more than 200 partners, and with the great involvement of everyone in the company. That's why we look for this workshop and for ETIP, where we know very well Connie, Nikos, and Thierry. They are leading this platform to share different projects, experience, always keeping the determination that this is the right way to do the things. But it's important to say that there are two key words that I feel in an event like this one, in the activity of ETIP. And they are the same words that we are living, for instance, at ETSO level as the DSOs, and even inside the companies. There are two words, innovation, and I check the projects and the targets of the projects, and I can feel that there is a lot of innovation there. But more important than that is cooperation. And we can check that all these projects are calling a lot of members to that, and the stakeholders of ETIP are there. The TSOs, the DSOs, the academia, the equipment suppliers, the ICT suppliers, the renewable generators, everyone are getting part of it. And we believe this is the only way we have to achieve the new way to deal with the energy sector. A sector that is now moving to a more customer-centric activity, and we need to be able to understand it in a way that we can build solutions not just for engineers in a way they can feel satisfied, but we need to do it for the citizens. It's very important for the sector that we can move in this direction. That's why innovation and this target is really important. When I look to the program, I feel that there is a lot of work here. And I want to thank you, everyone. I know that in these innovative projects, we don't get the success in the first step. We need to keep working. That's why this is the fourth workshop, as 3 or 4, but it's important to keep the line. And I want to say you that EDP is really involved. EDP Distribuição is involved. We are very honored to have you here. And I want to say thank you to the staff that organized it for you. And perhaps I can ask you an applause for the team that prepared this event. Thank you. And saying this, I wish all of you great results from this. We can return home with a few lessons, new friends, new partners, and now I think if you spend a few more time, you can still enjoy the city, and Lisbon is for sure for that one. For those that came here for the first time, I believe that you'll be there perhaps in next year or the year after. Thank you.
Okay, so now before we all go home, we have to wrap up this very interesting event. So we have tried with Rainer, Coralie, and Daniel to summarize the key messages that stem out of the discussions of these 2 days. So what we propose is that we go through these key messages together. So I'm going to read them one by one, so for each session. And if you do not agree with the wording, or if you would like it to be in a different way, just tell us, and we will amend it in real time. So if we start with session 1, first key message, so probabilistic approaches embedding different sources of risks can bring a new efficient way to perform security assessments. I guess this was this first presentation, so we all know that probability approaches can bring a lot of progress, especially in the way the network is operated, but not only operated, also asset management and planning. No protest. Okay, so I will move to the second one. Accurate forecasting tools are today a key flexibility mean for network operators while waiting for storage to be fully integrated in the power system. So I recall from one of the presentation, we were saying that storage should be used, and it was clearly said that today forecasting tools are available, and it is a flexibility mean that should be used. Okay, third bullet point, so operating networks with low inertia, so meaning rotating machines, is already possible today thanks to power electronic solutions. Renewable energy sources generators are already able to provide various ancillary services for frequency containment reserve and automated frequency restoration reserve. So I think this is important to say. So this, for us, this was a message also that comes from the presentation during session 1. Yeah, we had a very interesting presentation from Industrial Internet of Things. So we would like to express it this way. Many connected objects can bring valuable information streams for network operators if they are able to handle in an efficient way the space and time correlations of the output data. So it's they. Oops. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Agree? So this was Antonio, I see that my French English is not compatible with the Italian English.
The information streams coming from the objects are useful for the services, commercial services like the ones we have seen this afternoon, rather than to the grid operators to improve their services. So I think there are two concepts here mixed. We could also split them.
Can we say and, or is it we misunderstood it? Because what I understood also from maybe the gentleman is not here anymore.
No, I would just change not network operators, but
service providers.
Service providers.
Okay.
And on the other hand, network operators need more monitoring, observation of the grid, or observability and controllability.
I don't see anything. Okay. So let's do it this way.
Or maybe this correlation in space and time, you were referring to what we saw about the yesterday about the blackout in distribution and repair.
Speak up louder because I cannot hear you.
Yes, this correlation in space and time is more related to this service which was shown yesterday about the distribution grid blackouts to be more rapidly detected and repaired.
Yes, that
referring here. Now I understand. But I think
Yes.
we should keep both. So you can add...
And network operators.
No, you can add, for service providers, even full dot, this is very clear. And then also to network operators if they have this correlation and handling capacity.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got it because it's difficult to hear you. Yeah.
Yes, you can add the second part of the sentence.
Yes.
That can be useful to grid operators if they are able to handle in an efficient way, etc., etc. So both for service providers, they are useful per se, and to grid operators, and yes.
Okay. Okay, let's move to the next one. So we like this presentation. So we had 3 bullet points. So the second one, the engagement of all stakeholders of the telecom systems is needed so as to reach a critical mass of data. It's a little bit bad English, so as to be able to estimate accurately the space and time correlations. So here it was the idea that they need a lot of different sources for data generation. So maybe okay. Next point, data collection can be performed at nearly €0 and process with available and processed. Okay, data can be performed nearly cost. And data can be processed with available open source platforms. Here it was the idea that there's a lot of available data. No, you don't agree? We misunderstood? If it is scalable.
I think that was the specific case in point, but I don't think if we go beyond the trial, it would be possible everywhere. It's too strong of a statement.
Maybe you can smooth saying that there are synergies to be found with other data which may be available at low cost. But it's not in general that there are already data collected.
Yeah, because, okay, no, I see your point. Yeah, because here we are not talking about the data from the power system. We mean that there is a whole bunch of exogenous data which is available at almost zero cost and which should be useful for the system operators.
Which is available at a cost for another type of service operator, and a synergy can be found to collect this data or filter or use this data.
If we put it like this, What would you say? I spelled it. Yes? Yes? But speak up. Otherwise, for me, it's very difficult to hear.
Yes, maybe not the focus on the low cost. The fact that there are other databases from other operators of other services and synergies can be explored and found, possibly with a win-win solution. Otherwise, they will not give for free something which has a value to another operator. But definitely, the point is that there can be a source of data collection, and then we are talking only about collection. Then you have to handle the data, to use them. So for collection of data, this exogenous source can be exploited, and maybe it was not done so far. So this is the point, the synergy which can be found into in exploiting exogenous data. And maybe not referring to the low cost. Because that could even become a boomerang. So also from the other side, they could come and get data from the electric system. It should be a cooperation.
So could be made available, maybe? Data could be available. Yeah, but what Antonio is saying is that synergies, I mean, the guys that have the data, this exogenous data, they could make it available maybe through payment, so not at low cost. So can be available and be processed. Yeah, by power system stakeholders with available open source platform. We thought that this was a strong point, the open source platform, because you always hear about big data that you need very expensive solutions, and here there is open source software. So let's move. So I have noted that this one is not crystal clear. So maybe let's wait more on it. So. Okay, 4 more bullet points for session 1. So consumers, telecom operators, and energy service providers should join forces to share data so as to help generate low-cost services using generated high-quality data as input for improved system efficiency, social welfare. So maybe that's more what we were saying now. Yes? Okay, so let's continue. Electricity-based transport must be considered as a significant part of the load of the power system. So it was the railway. The use of reverse flows coming from breaking energy within the railway DC electricity system can bring flexibility to the power system with batteries and or power electronics. That was another message.
Eric, only in the first bullet point, just what do you think instead of low-cost services, value-added services? Again, here the focus should be on the value for the consumer,
yes,
not the fact that they can be done with the low cost.
Value-added services, okay. You don't like the low cost. You don't want to buy cheap.
We are not selling this to board members. We are doing this for all the stakeholders now here. Low cost is intrinsically devaluing the...
I see what you mean. Okay. It's because you're an engineer. If you had studied in a business school, you would buy cheap and sell expensive. You know, buy cheap, sell expensive. So you don't like the low cost. Okay, now let's continue. No, that's a good remark. No, it's true. I see your point. Apart from the joke. Okay. Okay, so if we move back to the third point, so it was about the braking energy within the railway DC electricity system that can bring flexibility to the power system with batteries and or power electronics. So I was pretty surprised, but they explained that there are two different projects. In one project, they tried with the batteries, and the other projects, they tried just with converters, which were placed at the right place on the network. So this was interesting. So for us, I think we learned something. I didn't know that the energy for the railway system was so high. It was such a high part of the industrial load. I mean, yes. Okay. So you mean it's a thing which is typical from countries that have high-speed trains? Okay. Railway DC system. So maybe we should put between parentheses high-speed trains. Huh? But sooner or later, everyone will have high-speed trains since Siemens and Alstom have joined forces, so they're going to invade the world with a lot of high-speed trains. High-speed trains. Sorry. So, next point. You have to speed up. The power system should remain the backbone of the energy system. Overall energy system optimization must, however, be accounted for, including connections with telecom networks. I guess we all agree on that one. Okay, let's move to session 2. So it was about the storage. So we discussed the need for storage, and we had very interesting conclusions that we needed storage. No, just joking. So some bullet points. So for BESS, so battery energy storage systems, need for new duty cycle standards so as to give undisputed performance certifications. So there was this. Still a need for focused demonstration projects with a set of specific applications so as to understand how the BESS can be used in the power system. It was also something which was stressed. We stressed something about the multi-service business models for storage integration, which might be a solution provided that the system services brought by storage are fairly valued, regulation and market mechanisms. So I don't see Patrick Clarence, but I think he will not contradict us. Then there was something about hybridation. So there is a wide portfolio of storage technologies which fulfill different functionalities. Hybrid systems, so we talked about, for example, flywheel and BSS, supercap, could help to cover a wide range of functionalities. We had then conversations about LCA, so further LCA studies are needed to fully appraise the environmental impact of BESS. Something about storage mean as one flexibility mean among others. So storage is one possible flexibility mean which must be compared services and associated costs with other flexibility means, so generation, demand, and the flexibility from the grid itself. Power to gas, so there is a need for an adapted regulatory framework to unlock the potential of these solutions and reach affordable costs. Okay. So that's what we, I think it was Piedad, so if I recall right, so she showed that there were still some regulatory barriers and more work is needed then to reach affordable costs. Okay, let's go to session 3. Antonio, session, you wanted no? Session 3, so we are in flexible generation. So flexible generation can be achieved with all different generation technologies. So, I mean, we are saying things that are obvious, but I don't know if Jesus is not here anymore, but it was something that was discussed at length in work group 3 of the ETIP-SNET. So it's important to point out that renewable energy sources can also bring flexibility. Second message, so the combination of enhanced capabilities of existing power plants and different technologies providing a range of new ancillary services is enough to operate a power system at very high shares of renewables within the physical limits and at affordable costs. So this is what we got from Jan, if we get it right. I hope my French English is compatible with the Irish English. Second point, these new ancillary services at different timescales can be provided by market players with transparent procurement and adapted qualification trial processes of the equipment. So this is very important. We think that we have to point this out because the Irish example is really in line with the spirit of the recast of the directive, the market electricity market directive, sorry. Synergies between manufacturers and research centers have to be favored in order to foster partnerships, delivering reliable and efficient HVDC converter solutions at affordable costs. Susanna, I think that's what you tried to say. And I wrote other because I felt like we forgot something, but maybe we did not forget anything. We did a very good job. Okay, and let's go to the last one. So here we didn't have time to work on it, so please help us. Short-term operational needs can be supported by consumers equipped with adequate digital technologies. So that's what we got from the first presentation. I don't know if I got it right, but there was this idea of power instead of energy. So this is, I guess this is something quite new. For system operators, big data issues can be handled with available on-the-shelf hardware and open source software. Do you agree, Antonio, or not? That's what we understood from the presentation. Third bullet point, solving big data problems brings cross-sectoral cooperation, so system operators, service providers, research centers, etc., which foster knowledge exchange as well as scientific and technological progress. Okay. So something that I got from is Sylvie still here, so let's see if I got it right. So if we can say it this way, so demand response for households, because you did a lot of experiments, but you concentrated on the private customers. So tariffs associated to penalties are more efficient than reward. I like that myself because I spent many years abroad and I learned that if you want discipline and things that work well, yeah, the penalties works well. Could say this way. So, and there was an important point. So it was repeated, I think, many times in different ways. Ah, sorry, Sylvie.
Yeah, just one point. What is more efficient is when it's managed, automatically managed, not the tariff alone.
Okay, you mean when you get the penalty
you gain
right away?
20%, and with the tariff, you gain 5%.
Okay, so what we should...
So it's the tariff, it can be penalties is more efficient than reward, but the most efficient is when the house is automatically managed.
Oh, okay. So you said... Sorry, because it's a different keyboard and oops. So opti. So you want to say this, that the optimum is reached when you have an automatized management, huh? Okay, so I will rephrase it, but okay, no, that's clear. And something which was interesting, I think, it was repeated several times, so maybe in a different way during the roundtable, is that customization, so parameterization is needed for the adoption of the technical solutions by the customer. So you can say it in different ways, but yeah, you have to go in the house, you have to understand the needs of the customer and parameterize the solutions. Last one, I don't know if I got it right, but I think it's something worth reflecting. So utilities of the future might be a new type of companies that have the knowledge on how to, I would say, mass address the end users. Not address the end users because, so I don't know if it's something which is correct in English, but...
address the masses of end users.
How to address... the end users at very large scales. Antonio.
I would add about the example from Ireland, Power Off and Save, that this is also an already existing example of interaction between heating and electric system. It's at residential level only, but this is already a positive example of good interaction because it was referring only to water heating. So I would add a bullet point on this. So this is one of the big trends that we would like to be fostered in the near future.
But so I should say small. You want to say this? So it's small scale hot water tanks are in efficient. That's what you want to say?
Yes, we can say represent a positive interaction between electricity and heating.
And flexibility source.
It's a first example which is already existing and possible and viable also.
To bring flexibility in the energy system, that's what you want to say?
Yes, although that particular example was only power off, so it was not really demand response, but it can be developed on that. Okay, but it's good to mention this coupling between electricity and heat.
Okay. Okay. Everybody wants to go home. No, not yet. Or maybe we have really did a good job and everything is crystal clear.
I think that from the presentation on REDI, I would perhaps add that provided you have the correct approach to the customer, technology can help to empower him.
During?
Provided you have the correct approach to the customer,
yes,
technology, a piece of technology can help his empowerment.
Okay. So can we revert it and say
I think it could go after the last bullet you have on approaching the
you want to say something like this, like customer empowerment can be obtained first by, I don't know how to, starting to be tired also myself. How to, you want to say that first the prerequisite is to address the customer and okay. Speak in the microphone.
Yes, I think that this is not a technological issue. Okay, this is a service issue. This is a different way to approach it. Sometimes the technology could help to do a lot of things, but in fact we must think in other ways to serve our customer. This is more important. We must find one of the most important lessons that we have here is we must learn how to go to the customer, explain them our industry. This electricity is something very easy because you turn on the switch and you have light in the lamp, but the customer don't understand all the complexity that we have in the system. And that means that we are not able to explain to our customer in nowadays the problems that we have in the sector. And to do that, we must build a new set of services that could allow with our customer a different kind of relationship. The customer could look for his utility, he find a partner to help in a lot of things. To, of course, not only to decrease the invoice. For instance, in Portugal, the average invoice is much lower than in North countries. That means that we don't expect, the customers say that the invoice is high, but don't do a lot of things to decrease the invoice. That means we must look for the other things. What kind of services could we supply? Supply service to have to comfort, service to allow a customer to produce locally, to have his own battery, okay? The batteries, of course, are a threat for our sector, but are also an opportunity, and we must look for these new developments like opportunities that we must develop. I'm not agree with you that the technological could be the key of this development. I don't believe on that. Yes.
Understandable instead of new understandable easiness, reduced complexity. That was the message.
Okay. Yes, Sylvie.
And in the other way, we have to understand our customers in order to propose them the best services.
So for customer, can we say for customer adoption and how we say in English? Help me. For customer adoption and can we say understanding?
Okay.
When promoting the services. Now Natalie wants to give me a hard time.
No, not the final, not the hard one. I think it was mentioned in a number of the kind of ICT-related presentations, especially from the Electric Ireland. I understood that you were communicating that the open APIs, integration from various service providers, and interoperability was important for the holistic solution. Is that correct? I didn't see that summary, kind of open APIs, no siloed solutions, and interoperability in the summary. So I just wanted to verify that it's.
So this is what more or less Sylvie was saying about the interoperability of the, I don't know how you called it, but of this transmitter which is in the Linky, which has to be interoperable with all the
Yeah.
Just to clarify, there's no open API with the public or with the data. It's all, you know, internally with our partners and ourselves and with AirGrid, because they're collaborating on the project. And you know, there's a lot of stringent protocols in terms of data protection as well on that. So maybe I didn't.
But the interoperability with the partners should exist, right? So that's
yes.
It depends how wide you open the system, but the certain.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not doing it in silos. So it's not one. It's with the partners.
Yes. Yeah.
So the words interoperability and collaboration, I think, is missing.
Yeah.
You can edit in the last bullet point. Interoperability is also an important issue for customers.
So, okay. Now it's me who starts to feel tired. So thanks a lot for challenging us. So we will wrap up again these notes, and they will be online, so we'll also have your say. I mean, if when you read them online you think that we have misinterpreted or misunderstood one of your feedback. I leave the word to Thierry for the last. You want, yeah.
So I have 2 minutes to close this meeting. I think we had very fruitful exchanges. I thank everyone for the cooperation spirit that you proved. The conclusions drawn by Eric are completely accurate. For myself, I noted some elements on top of this. I think we have a tendency to focus on technology. Technology is key, of course, but technology without money, without finance, without positive regulation, and without customer engagement will not achieve big successes. So I think we have to balance our activities between technology and customer engagement. We saw that the last discussion was on this. There's no use trying to build smart energy networks if the customer is not engaged. At the same time, it's perfectly right that the customer doesn't want to spend even a half minute every day to deal with energy problems. He wants to globally decide how it must be managed and then give the key to those who are in which he has confidence. Another conclusion for me was that we all work on the same topics. When I'm not at the ETIP or at the European Association for Storage of Energy, I'm in charge of downstream activities at EDF R&D. And when I read the presentation, when I hear what the topics on which we globally are working, direct current, synthetic inertia, load forecast, this is what the people inside EDF R&D work on. And I think this shows at the same time a positive sign. It means that we are on the good topics, interesting ones, but at the same time, I think we could spare a lot of money by working together. And I think cooperation, it was mentioned by the chairman of EDP recently, cooperation is key in our work. I would like, before closing, to thank EDP for this welcome. I think everyone will remember, of course, Lisbon, but most of all, your hospitality and the very nice infrastructure that we benefited from during these 2 days. I would like to thank the team that organized this workforce, so Technofi, Zabala, Rainer Barer is a team alone, I think. So thank you, and I think we can applaud at the same time EDP and the team that organized this workshop. And then for everyone here in this room, and also those who are online somewhere in Europe or in the world, I would advise you to come to the next workshops. Next one is in Cyprus, then one is in Riga, if you can manage to be present. I would advise that you visit our website, ETIP-SNET website. I would advise that you answer our consultations. We are completely transparent. Whenever we give a position, whenever we write something, everyone has the possibility to say, I do not agree, I have this opinion, and this is the reason why I think this. And last, take part to all the works of the ETIP-SNET. I think we have a huge lot of things to do together, but I'm sure we will manage. Thank you.